Hello, everybody. Tom Stamulis with True North Group, and we are here for our weekly Facebook Live, sponsored by the Virginia SBDC, or Small Business Development Center. And we are now right in the middle of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I also want to thank our partner, we have our partner, our Small Business Development Center in the U.S. Virgin Islands, that we're streaming to as well. So welcome to all of those businesses down there. We're excited to have you join us for this week's Facebook Live. So we're right in the middle of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And this week is really, they're talking about cybersecurity as a career. Now, for our small business development or our small businesses, not really a big topic necessarily, but it is a great career field if you have friends or family or young people that are interested in a direction, and they like technology, but they don't necessarily know where they want to go. I would highly recommend that they look into cybersecurity. I really tell people cybersecurity is a lot like the medical profession. There are so many avenues that one could take and spend an entire career on, and not just be a generalist. Everything from encryption to different types of security. So there's a lot to do. But for us, I'm going to talk about what has been a big problem for us, is continually being a big problem, is poor passwords. We are being inundated with breaches. We've got passwords are constantly trying to be stolen through phishing and spam and all of that. And then we have companies that are not enforcing strict password management. So they're allowing people to use short passwords, passwords with no complexity. And, and even today, we still have, every year they do an update on the most, the worst passwords that are being used. And every year you have the word password. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the problem is I think we've hit a burnout. Everything needs a password now. And people are frustrated with it, and they're starting to take shortcuts where they're saying, you know what, this isn't really that important. So I'm not going to use a really strict password, which can be generally true, but how do we know that it's not tied to something else? So this afternoon at 4 o'clock, we're going to be talking about, as part of our initiative for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we're doing a work group on password managers. And I've talked about them in the past, and I really encourage anyone in business or personal to look at a password manager. Honestly, it's like a $30 investment per year to have that, but it solves so many more problems. You can store anything that's important to you. So that could be logins into your sites. It'll store credit cards. It'll store license information, or social security numbers, all of these things. And it'll store it for not only yourself, but your family. It allows us to have a secure, encrypted vault that all you have to do is remember one complex password. And that's what will get you in. All the other stuff is done by the password manager. It'll generate passwords for you. You can put in the parameters. If you have one site that requires 12 characters, complex, which means you have to use alphanumeric and uppercase, lowercase, and a special character, and it needs to be 12. You punch that in, and it generates it for you. You have your username, and it has the link on there, and all you got to do is click on that link, and when you go there, it automatically fills in the username and password, and you're in the site. You don't have to remember anything. You don't have to put them in notes. And interestingly enough, I was talking to a friend. She carries her passwords in a notebook in her purse, all right, because that's what works for her. I do not recommend that. If you've ever been to the Hallmark store, sometimes at the front counter, you'll see it'll actually say password in username notebook. I don't recommend that either, because if they get your passwords and your usernames, then they have access to pretty much anything, and that's your identity. And if you've never had your identity stolen, try to talk to someone who's had their identity stolen. It can take upwards of a year and hours upon hours to try to get that back. And the harm that it can cause can be devastating to your credit. And unfortunately, the credit companies don't care. They just look at it and that's your credit. And then you've got to spend hours trying to recover it. So it's better to use a complex password. It's even better to use multi-factor. And, we've talked about the fact that there's only 3 ways to validate or verify you are who you are when you're on the internet. And the first one, what we've been using for decades, is a password. It's something you know, and hopefully something only you know. And then a second factor that they use is something you have. And that could be a token. And if you've been dealing with computers for a long time, you're probably very familiar with those RSA tokens that everyone had on their keychains. Now, because everyone has a smartphone, they can send you what they call as a one-time password, or they'll send you a 6-digit code specifically to your phone number. You're the only one that should have that phone. Therefore, that's a second factor. All right. And then there's also these, multi-factor authentication platforms. Microsoft has one, Google has one, even Facebook has a code generator that they'll ask you to generate that code. And how that works is that application on your phone is synced with a server for the organization, whether that be Facebook, Google, whatever. And that number, it's time synced. So that 6-digit number, when you punch that in, it validates it that should be the 6-digit number that you should be sending. And then that's a second factor. So even if someone steals your password, they're not going to be able to get into your bank account or your work or your VPN or whatever, because they don't have that second factor. And then lastly is who you are. And that's where biometrics comes into place. And, if you have a phone and you're using Face ID, that's biometrics. If you have your finger that you use on a computer, on a MacBook Pro, or if you've used it on an IBM or a Lenovo, that's another way. So you can use a retinal scan. And if you work for the government, or if you worked for some very high-level organizations that have some sensitive information, they might use a retinal scan, or they might even use a voice tag, because those all have patterns that are distinct to you as an individual. No one has this. In theory, no one has the same fingerprint. Your fingerprint is unique to you. So therefore, and if you have all 3 of those factors in place, where you have a password, something you know, a token of something you have, and you use that, you've pretty much covered the basis to ensure that someone's not going to be able to get access to the information that you're trying to protect. So really, and like I said, humans aren't designed to remember multiple passwords with the complexity and all of that. That's not what we remember. So that's where password managers are very valuable. If you want to learn more about them, we're going to be going over them in detail. It's a smaller groups. We're keeping it to like 15, 20 people max. And it's more interactive. It's not just me presenting a class, but it's also there where I'll be able to answer questions for you. And we'll be able to talk about different password managers, the benefits for all of them, how they work, what they protect, and why we highly recommend that you at least look into some type of password manager, especially for small businesses and to protect your identity. So again, like I said, we're in the middle of Cybersecurity Awareness Week. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of organizations that are holding town hall meetings and panels. But what we're doing is we're doing these workshops because we've talked about this for a year, and now we want to give you those instructions so that you can help protect your own data more effectively. So that's it for today. We look forward to hopefully seeing you today, this afternoon, or if you want to join the Password Manager class tomorrow at noon, we're going to be doing that again. And hope to, and as always, if you want to have a one-to-one with me because you want to talk about a unique situation that you have, particularly a company, just go help@virginiasbdc.org and we can set up a one-to-one meeting with you. Have a great day, and we look forward to talking to you next week. Bye.